So, you run your own DayZ server, or maybe you're just interested in the inner workings of the game and how PBO and game file verification works. Either way, you should probably know how signature files work in DayZ. Let's talk about it a bit. Jumping right in, when it comes to PBO signatures in DayZ or really any other game made by Bohemia Interactive, there's 4 different types of files that you should probably know about. And then the first one that you're going to want to know about is the .pbo file. It's actual game files that are contained, or mod code, or just general content for use in game. You're probably already familiar with that. In this example, we're just looking at our loading screen video PBO. This is the actual file that contains our loading screen, our scripts, all that's available in here. It's the actual content file. The next type of file you need to know about is your bisign file, so your .bisign. This is essentially the signature file for your PBO file that is directly correlated with this, and it's just a signature for your PBO file. And then the next one is a .bikey. It's part of a 2-key system. It's essentially like your public key if you're aware of like SSH key pairs. In this case, we have ours right here, which is located in our keys folder on the server, which is basically saying anything that matches this public key is able to be played on our server. So without this file here, we wouldn't be able to join our server with our mod, the loading screen one right here. It wouldn't let us join because this add-on is signed by that, signed with this key over here. And if I don't have it entered in here, it's not going to accept it as an allowed mod because the key is missing. And then here we can see the .by private key. So this is essentially the part 2 of the key pair system. It's your private key. You don't want to put this out on the Steam Workshop or anything like that, as then people would be able to sign add-ons under your name. So very important thing to know, it's the private key, you don't want to give that out, and it's how you sign your add-ons. Without this private key, you're not going to be able to sign add-ons. And this 2-part key pair system is used by the game to verify the integrity of the files, to make sure they haven't been modified, and to assign basically kind of like an owner of it, to where you're like, it is signed by this key, we are allowing this key, we trust this key, so it's okay to join the server with this content. And then due to the nature of how PBO files work, anyone could theoretically open up one of the modded files. So in this case, I have our loading screen PBO. I've unpacked it, so it's now a folder, and we can go directly into the code files and all that here. And you could totally make some changes there, make some malicious edits, add some cheats, whatever unauthorized changes, save it, and then rejoin a server. And then the server isn't using signature verification, that doesn't have that signature file there to verify that that mod is good and matches what it should be, then there's nothing that would stop someone from doing that. And that is why DayZ uses these signature files. It all starts with that bikey file, so that file right over here, we have it in here. So it starts with that, and then also your private key. And again, it's very similar how SSH key pairs work, so it may sound familiar. Your bikey is your public key. It's distributed to everyone and placed in the keys folder on the server, as we can see we have done right here, which will basically allow people with add-ons tied to this to join your server. Otherwise, if I delete this, it will, whenever you try to join, it's going to say the add-on's not allowed on the server because it's not signed by a key accepted by the server. And then once again, your private key, don't distribute it at all. Use this key alongside your bikey to sign your PBO files and create those bisign or by signature files. So for our example earlier, if I say modified this file here and then we just try to join, and assuming we have a signature here already, what will happen is you're going to go ahead and get kicked because the signature is not going to match, because it essentially does a verification of this file, sees if there's any changes or anything like that, and if it doesn't match the hash that it generated in the signature, it's not going to work. It's going to kick you for an error message pretty similar to this. So let's go ahead and show a real life example of this process. I have the loading screen mod again right here, just the PBO file ready to go. And this is from the video on how to make custom loading screen. If interested, card in the top right. So we're going to go ahead and open up DayZ Tools from Steam. And then we're going to go ahead and open up DSUtils. And this is a utility provided by Bohemia Interactive and is used in several of their games, and not just DayZ. Basically all of their games that use PBO files, you have this add-on available, or this utility available, so that way you can sign your add-ons. Then what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to actually delete our key that we already have existing here. So we're just going to demonstrate the process of creating a brand new key. So here's your private key option. We're going to want to create a new one. And then I'm going to actually put it in that same project folder here. We want to be able to sign. We don't need to open it or anything like that. And then we're going to give an authority name. This can be really whatever you want. Most people are going to want to go ahead and just put their mod offer name. So TGC, your name, community names, totally up to you. And then we're going to go ahead and create that. It's going to tell you to make sure to protect your private key. You don't want to give that to anyone else because they can sign add-ons as you. Public keys can be distributed in the content to the public, of course. So we'll press OK. And if you look, now we have a bikey, a private key, and then a little text file that kind of gives you the MD5 hash and all that information. And then now that we have the bikey and the private key, let's go ahead and sign this add-on again. So let's go ahead and go into here. We'll add a source directory. So we're going to say these are the files that we want to go ahead and sign. And it is going to be right in here. So it found the one PBO file that we want to sign. It tells us right now it's not currently signed. And then we want to go ahead and we can override signatures, single file list. That's all fine. We can use default. And then we can go ahead and process. It's going to let us know it's going to overwrite any existing ones, which is fine. Continue. And then it shows it was successfully signed. And if we look here, we now have that signature file. And one thing DSUtils allows us to do is to actually check our signatures and make sure everything matches. So I can hit check signatures. And then I went ahead and just added our keys folder in there so it can verify. And then we also added this file back in here, for our add-ons. And then in this case, it says, beginning of the printout, no error, signature is okay. Let's go ahead and make that not okay. So continuing with our example of someone modifies an add-on, I'm going to go ahead and copy the actual correct add-on with no modifications. I'm just going to take it out of here. And then we have the folder here. We're going to just go ahead and modify one little thing. Now I'm not going to actually modify the code itself, but I'm just going to type into the file. So this is still technically making a change, even though this is a commented out section. We'll save that. We'll close out of that. And now this file has been modified from us. Then we're going to go ahead and just repack it. You should probably use the add-on builder. I'm just going to use PBO manager. It's fine. And then let's go ahead and try to do that again. And then we run it again. It immediately is able to tell that the file is wrong. It doesn't match. We have a problem here. You're going to get kicked for it. This is why whenever someone updates their own mod, what they'll have to do is they'll have to re-sign their add-on to get a new signature file. Just because every change you make to it is going to make that signature invalid because it's not going to exactly match. So that's why every time you update a mod, it has to update the PBO and the signature file. Let's go ahead and we'll delete our modified one. We'll copy our real one back. And if we, verify again, signature is okay. And then let's go ahead and install this add-on in our server and check some important settings that's important to know. And then now we have our server open, we're remoted in here, we have our files. You can see we actually do already have this add-on installed. I'm going to actually just delete it out of there real fast just so we can get rid of it. And then now that we deleted it out there, we have our files that we copied over. We can open this. You have your add-ons folder with your two different files in there, and we could copy it in. And then, of course, you would want to add it to your launch parameters for the mod to start, but that's not really what this is all about here. And one thing you may notice is this folder doesn't actually have a keys folder in here. When other mods from the workshop, like the trader one, you'll see it comes with a keys folder with that by key. Not all mod creators will provide this essentially, because if it's a public mod, they usually will. But if it's a private one, without that by key, they can't actually run your mod on their servers. So say if you have this one, which no one else should be running this on any other server because it's, my mod, there's no reason for that. It's a loading screen. You can provide that by key in here, and they can automatically copy it over, like Omega Manager will copy over this key right here, like this DayZ Trader. If we go into here, and then you can see that's already there. It's provided. It's not a big problem. However, we don't have our key for this mod, so it's not going to let us join. You'll get an error similar to this one right now. That's going to pop up saying, hey, this doesn't add up. So you have to have that key. So in that case, we're going to go ahead and grab your by key, copy that over into here. And then now if we start the server, we should be able to go ahead and join, and we should have no issues getting into the server. And as we can see here, loaded in, no problem whatsoever. And then one other thing that's really important is none of this matters if your server isn't set to be checking for these signatures and making sure that they're validated. So what you'd want to do is you want to go to your server DayZ.cfg. You can also edit this within the Omega Manager interface if you're using that, but we'll just look at the plain file. Then we look here, we see, all of our default stuff, name, password, stuff like that. But there's a setting here called verify signatures. And by default, this should be set to 2 and it always should be 2. Setting it to 0 will basically stop the game. It's not going to bother checking signatures at all. It's not going to verify that they're valid. 1 would use the V1 signatures. They're very insecure. Don't use that either. So always make sure that you have this set as 2. And then if we look in the instant server configuration here, we can also see it's right here. It's the same thing, it's just a different way of displaying the data. Again, make sure you have it set to 2 or else it's going to be very easy for someone to jump on your server, cheat with some modified add-ons, stuff like that. So definitely make sure that this is enabled. It's probably the most important thing to take out of this video. And that's about it. If you're interested in learning more about signature keys in Bohemia Interactive games and how those work, I'll leave some links to the wiki pages below, which have a little bit more details in there. And then as always, if there's anything important that I need to update, it'll be in the pinned comment or in the description. And as always, thanks to the Patreons for the month of October and November. If you have any video suggestions, feel free to leave them in a comment below, and have a good one.